The first time I met him, I wanted nothing more than to leave immediately. The brochure said, hug therapy. And I thought, what kind of nonsense is this grown men paying to cuddle with strangers? But curiosity, that wicked little spark, had already pushed me through the door of his studio. He was there, calm and unassuming, a soft smile that somehow made the air around him feel warmer. His eyes, a quiet shade of green, tracked me without judgment as I shuffled awkwardly onto the sofa. He didn't ask questions right away. Instead, he gestured toward the empty chair beside mine, inviting me to sit closer without saying a word. First time. His voice was low, gentle, unthreatening. I nodded, my throat suddenly dry. Yeah, I guess. He smiled again, but there was no smugness, no hint of the joke I felt I was living. Just a real, steady presence that somehow started to untangle the tight knot of nerves in my chest. Then we'll start simple, he said. And for a moment, I thought it was all going to be some ridiculous small talk. But he didn't ask for words, he asked for presence. Slowly, deliberately, he opened his arms. The invitation was so disarming I almost laughed at myself. And then, I let myself lean in. The first hug was strange, almost electric. Not in a sexual way at least. I tried to tell myself that, but in a way that made every muscle in my body scream with tension and relief at the same time. He held me like it was the most natural thing in the world, patient and precise, guiding me into stillness I didn't even know I was missing. I wanted to pull away, yet part of me never wanted him to let go. Afterward, we just sat. No pressure, no conversation beyond soft observations, the kind you only notice when someone makes you feel safe enough to notice them. My chest still ached in a way I hadn't expected. I know this feels weird, he said finally, breaking the silence. Most people think hugging is trivial, but it's not. Connection. Safe, honest connection. Something most of us don't get enough of. I couldn't meet his gaze at first. Something in my chest was fighting to admit that he was right. And worse, something deeper than acknowledgement whispered that I wanted more. More of this warmth, more of this quiet understanding, more of him. Over the next weeks, I returned. At first, just once a week, a test, a strange curiosity I couldn't fully explain. But every session pulled me further in. His presence became an anchor. Every small smile, every gentle instruction on breathing or posture, every subtle adjustment of my body under his guidance left me aching for the next encounter. I began to notice details, the way his hands were careful but confident, the faint scent of cedar and soap that lingered when he hugged, the way his eyes held mine just a little longer than necessary. I told myself these were just impressions, quirks of someone doing their job. But each week, my defenses weakened. One evening, the last appointment of the day, the studio dimmed in that perfect golden hour light. I lingered longer than usual. He caught me hesitating, head tilted slightly, a question in his gaze without needing words. My heart hammered in embarrassment and something else, something I was desperate to name but afraid to. "Do you want to try something?" he asked softly, lowering his voice. His usual composed demeanor seemed softer, closer somehow. I nodded before I could think better of it. The hug that followed was different. It was no longer just therapy. It was warmth, yes, but also urgency, a silent conversation we hadn't spoken aloud. My arms wrapped around him instinctively, and he responded in kind, his hands settling on my back in a way that was grounding, electric, and terrifying all at once. I wanted to tell him how I felt, how quickly this was consuming me, but words were useless here. The connection said everything I couldn't. When we finally pulled back, just slightly, our foreheads resting together, I felt a dizzying mix of exhilaration and fear. He smiled that same soft, knowing smile, and something in it cracked a part of me that I hadn't known was so tightly sealed. "I think we'll need to take it slow," he murmured. "This is new for both of us." I swallowed, nodding, but my chest rebelled. Slow was impossible when every fiber of me wanted to stay like that forever. That night, walking home, I couldn't stop thinking about him, about the way he had made me feel safe, seen, almost tenderly, alive. I'd been cynical, lonely, convinced that closeness was for other people, not me. But he proved that wrong in a single hug. One session. One impossible, perfect hug. And now I was hooked. I didn't admit it to anyone, not yet. The word obsession lingered dangerously close. Yet, I found myself planning my next visit, tracing each detail of the studio in my mind, wondering if he noticed how I lingered in his space, how I listened to the cadence of his voice, memorized the weight of his hands. By the end of the month, I realized I was no longer curious. I was dependent, not just on the therapy, not just on the comfort, but on him, on the subtle magnetic pull he had over me. And it scared me more than I cared to admit. I wasn't in love. Not yet. Maybe not even close. But I was certain of one thing. I couldn't imagine life without his presence in it. And the thought made every other wormy past, my loneliness, my foolish expectations fade into insignificance. Weeks turned into months, and our sessions evolved into something neither of us could define neatly. He remained professional, gentle, always guiding the boundaries. Yet every time our bodies brushed, every lingering hug, every quiet laugh shared in the golden-lit studio chipped away at the wall I'd built around my heart. I knew I was falling dangerously, and maybe he felt it too. One rainy afternoon, the city muffled under a soft gray drizzle, I found myself at the studio earlier than my appointment. I wasn't sure why, only that the thought of seeing him was unbearable and irresistible at once. When he opened the door, eyes lighting up with that subtle, knowing smile, my resolve crumbled. "I didn't think anyone would show up this early," he said, though his voice betrayed warmth. "Coffee?" I nodded, words sticking somewhere deep in my throat. He led me to the small corner with the little couch, the one by the window where light always spilled just right. He handed me a cup, his fingers brushing mine, and the contact lingered far longer than casual. I didn't pull away. "Are you okay?" he asked, studying me closely. I can't stop thinking about you," I admitted, and the words felt like a release. Terrifying, yes, but liberating. Not just the sessions. You're always there, even when you're not. He remained quiet for a moment, eyes softening, and then slowly, deliberately, he reached out. His hand cupped my cheek, warm and steady, and I leaned into it as if I'd been waiting for this touch my whole life. "I've felt it too," he whispered. "More than I should, maybe, but I can't deny it anymore." Time seemed to pause. The studio, usually buzzing with quiet energy, melted into the kind of silence that only happens when the world narrows to two people. Our lips met, hesitant at first, testing, and then with the certainty of all the unspoken feelings that had been accumulating between us. It was soft, it was urgent, and it felt like coming home. Afterwards, we sat curled together on the couch, the rain painting streaks down the window, hearts still hammering. I realized then that what we had was more than therapy. More than comfort, it was a choice, a trust, a gentle declaration that we were letting ourselves be vulnerable, completely without fear. Over the following weeks, our connection deepened. Sessions blurred into something intimate, not in a reckless way, but in a way that honored the slow, deliberate trust we had built. Hugs became longer, touches more knowing, laughter more frequent, and conversations stretched into the night. He shared stories of his past, the reason he became a hug therapist, the heartbreaks that had taught him empathy. I shared mine, my fears, my longing for connection, my awkward attempts at bravery. It wasn't perfect, there were moments of doubt, moments when the intensity terrified me, but he always met me halfway, grounding me, showing me that closeness wasn't a trap, it was liberation. And slowly, the gnawing ache of loneliness I had carried for years began to dissolve. One evening, after a particularly emotional session, he leaned back and whispered, I used to think I could separate feelings from work. But you've changed that. You've changed me." I smiled, heart swelling. "You've changed me too. I can't imagine. Not this. Not you." He reached for my hand, lacing our fingers together. "Then don't imagine it. Let's not imagine life apart. Let's be real together." And in that moment, something shifted entirely. All the awkwardness, all the hesitation, All the fear of letting someone in it didn't matter. What mattered was the simplicity of presence, the comfort of touch, the honesty of heart. Months later, as we sat in the same corner by the window, the golden light casting a halo around us, I realized how much I had feared that first hug, how much I had resisted the pull I now could not live without. But now, wrapped in his arms, laughter spilling softly between us, I understood. Some things were worth letting yourself fall into completely. We weren't just therapist and client anymore. We were two souls who had found refuge in each other, learning slowly how to navigate love, desire, and vulnerability. And every hug, every shared smile, every quiet moment together reminded us of the improbable, beautiful truth that connection could heal, transform, and ultimately, make life worth living. I tried hug therapy once. I thought it was a fleeting curiosity. I was wrong. I found him. I found home. I found a love that required courage, patience, and trust. And I could not live without either him ever again. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.